because I was like gonna say something, but it was intense, so then I just
So do you think he was either doing a deal or on which side, receiving
No,
or
he was screaming at his girlfriend.
Oh.
He was on the phone in like a very intense conversation, and I peeked because I was.
Hello, everyone. I'm sitting in for Kevin McLaughlin, so I will be the Riffs today.
And I am sitting in for myself. I will still be the Rhythms today. So welcome to the podcast. We've got the bad bitch herself, Elly Brock. How you doing, Elly?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, well, thank you for filling in. I definitely love, we did have a fill-in co-host the last couple episodes as well. Kevin's got a lot going on. He's getting ready to do some touring. He's actually going to the UK coming up here, doing a tour around the UK. So anyone's, no, this is going to hurt his feelings. They say anyone's better than Kevin, and a lot prettier too. Yes, there we go. So, so again, for those of you who don't know, shame on you, actually, but Elly is part of the Destruction crew on the Jams and Cocktails podcast every Wednesday night on YouTube. They are also part of the B3 podcast network that we now have. So Jams and Cocktails, Riffs and Rhythms, Drums and Rums are eventually going to get back. Trust me, I keep saying it, but trust me, it's going to get back. But yeah, so there's a fill-in host, and this is cool because I think it's kind of changes some things up a little bit, little dynamics. And I know at some point I'm going to need to probably, a few things that are going on in my life, I may need to also have some fill-ins as well. So thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so she came only because I said I was going to bring some bad bitch rum.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So anyway, so enough of the banter and chitty chatty that we've got going on here. We've got somebody here that's on the podcast here, our guest. I met our guest through another podcast endeavor, part of the scene here in West Palm Beach County. It's so awesome the music that she performs and how she ties in, and she's gonna we're gonna ask a lot of good questions about how she got into music, some of the things that she's involved with, some everything else. So I'll shut up now and just get ready to go to it. So welcome to the podcast, DJ Lexey. How you doing, DJ?
Good, thank you so much. Yeah. Happy to be here.
Yes. So I know we've kind of it's been maybe a year or two or something that we've kind of known each other.
Paths.
And we were chatting a little bit. I said to Elly, like, I said, I've seen Lexey perform at the meat market, and she laughed. I go, no, I said, no, it's actually a restaurant. It's a restaurant / nightclub kind of vibe, right?
Right.
And amongst other places, right? You're a very high in demand performer.
Thank you. I don't know. I try to keep up. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of fun places in this county, and then Broward, Dade, you go down. It's just never ending. Seems like a number of venues to play, but there's definitely a few regular ones that I'm in all the time for a lot of events.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite venue
that
you love playing at?
That's
or
hard.
Not to single anyone out. But
Everywhere is so different, and there's certain ones that are just kind of like breathtakingly beautiful, but then there's other ones where you like fall in love with the staff and they make the whole event so much better for you. You couldn't care less about the view, so there's a bunch of things kind of going through your head, or just, depending on the client and everything. So it's not so much about the venue. It's like all the little components that put it together. And then
Absolutely.
you're like, okay, that was a great night, but why?
Yeah.
So for those that are watching and listening here, again, as I introduced Lexey as DJ Lexey, right? It's not your initials, obviously, there, but there's the DJing part, actually, DJing of music. So, how does that tie in, and what you do and how you started, and let's hear the whole story. We got a couch there. Lay down and tell your whole story.
Here we go. So, I think going back to beginnings of music, I did really start with classical and violin and piano. So very, classical upbringing. I thought I wanted to do violin in college and go for that. It was really kind of dominating my childhood in a way that, loved it, but also like limited me to just that. So I didn't get into any of the real serious music schools that I wanted to get into, where I thought I should be. Juilliard, Curtis, those kinds of things. And that was really devastating at the time because I thought that's all I really had going for me, you know. But fell in love with New York City while going to travel there, and so I knew I was happy with New York. Didn't know what I would do there yet. I grew up in Maryland, so not too far, but I knew I wanted to go to New York, but I pretty much abruptly stopped violin because I didn't get to go anywhere for school with that. So it was a bit of a like love-hate parting, you know. I dedicated a lot of my life to it, you know, many, many hours. And I just decided, okay, that's it. Like, let's stop this. And then like within a year of living in the city, I think I kind of, you know, fell in with different crews of friends and people in the city, people that were choreographers and dancers in the nightlife there, and kind of like was eyeing DJing. And you know, I was really exploring like new music as well, because I think I was also quite sheltered and limited with like the classical training. And you know, my parents immigrated from Russia when I was 7 years old, so like I didn't really have that like American
Right.
upbringing, or even like, you know,
You're being exposed
yeah.
to
So
American
all I
music.
had was like radio on occasion. Like I wouldn't call myself, you know, well-rounded by any means. I was, you know, really learning through my college years, I would say, like about music in general. And to me, I couldn't quite tell, is this like 70s or 80s or 90s? Because it was like all new to me.
Right.
And so I had to like piece those puzzles together as I kind of started growing there. And then, you know, DJs were really inspiring to me just because their knowledge is so vast of music. And I started kind of having an interest in that. And then maybe by like my second year of school, I went to the Fashion Institute in the city. I was just randomly thinking of a present for a birthday or Christmas or something. I was like, let's get turntables. Let's try this. At the time, DJs really did spit on turntables. We used vinyl. Then eventually, like tech picked up, and we had Serato and ways of still using like the Techniques 1200s and placing a record. But then the computer stores the music. But you know, it evolves. But then, yeah, I basically started following DJs around and listening to everything and trying to get a little bit of a start. And, you know, I understood the concept technically, I guess. Like, I understood rhythm from all the classical music. I understood, like, genres, keys, like that type of stuff. So, like, it wasn't hard as a technical instrument. It was more about, like, learning the music and getting the knowledge of all the different artists and decades that I missed out on.
So, was anyone else in your family into performing, playing music, classical music? Or
My mom played as a pianist, but you know, this wasn't like her career path. She went to like a musical conservatory. My dad was more of like a gypsy style, pick up any instrument, figure it out. Didn't really know how to read music, but you know, was very smart and bright and could like figure things out.
so you
You know,
probably had a really good ear, right?
yeah, it was more about that. My mom was more like rigidly trained and could tell him like what note he was trying to get to, you know, but that wasn't like the dominant thing in the house.
Right.
You know, they were still involved in their work and things like that. And then no, my siblings like didn't really, nobody played, so it was just me, my interest.
So how old were you when you went to New York? And you were
was
going to school for fashion?
17. Yeah.
wow.
So
Okay.
I left like as soon as I could.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I think I took a couple summer classes basically before I even started. Like I was just really eager to get there, and so I left at probably, you know.
Was it kind of like a culture shock to go and see the type of music that's being played in New York
Yeah,
City? Like,
I
are there
mean-
buskers? Are there people on the street? Is that kind of what, or did you go to like clubs and
Yeah,
explore
more
that
like
way?
more like clubs, and you know, there's street concerts and DJs playing in the park sometimes. Summer's really vibrant in New York, so there's just music everywhere. And you're getting flyers, obviously, because you're in college, and
Right, yeah.
school is predominantly a girls' school, we'll call it. So we always had a lot of promoters and people trying to pull you here and there, and everything's free, and like, just come, like we
Right,
just
yeah.
need bodies, so like just come and like everything's taken care of. So it was like it was really fun, and I was more or less in like a small town in Maryland, so not really exposed to that kind of thing. So it was fun to see and meet new people and just like all the different cultures and food, and it was a lot of overwhelming like experiences for
Right.
It's a little bit of
all
a
the senses.
culture, maybe a little culture shock, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, I wasn't like in a country bumpkin kind of town. Like we had diversity.
Yeah.
No, but like when I first moved, we really almost didn't. And that town also like evolved. Like I was the only Russian person in the school, and like the ESOL, like the English speakers of other languages, like they would stick me and the one Korean girl. So like we were supposed to just be friends, like her not having spoken any English and me just learning.
So you English as your second language?
Yeah.
Oh,
How
wow.
am I doing? I'm doing okay.
Yeah, perfect.
All right.
I would have never guessed.
Bueno.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, even that town where I was, like it evolved a lot too. And then
Yeah.
by the time I was graduating high school, I was in a pretty diverse school with a lot of, but yeah, at the time, like this was like, this is your best friend. I'm like,
You're both foreign. Best
Thank
friends.
you.
Yeah. We have something in common.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's an interesting. And again, I want definitely stay, and we can probably have a real interesting conversation. Certain things, obviously, about current climate of things, and again, we'll stay clear of those, right? But yeah, like I said, as being somebody who had also had didn't have this long foundation and learning certain, for me, non-music related was growing up when it came to sports. All I ever knew was soccer.
Okay.
Right. Big in the UK, obviously, and didn't know any about football, baseball.
Right.
It was just that's all my folks knew because that was the prominent sport in Scotland. But I do though was fortunate had come over from the UK was the exposure of all the Brit invasion music, the Stones, the Beatles, and XYZ. So definitely, it's been interesting. So I am one of those kids you talk about, being a Gen Xer is, yes, I was in the station wagon in the back in the 1980s, no seatbelts, listening to the oldies station, which I think now my music is considered oldies now, I think.
My music is considered oldies.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're old as AF. But you're just having that fun. So that point there, being in the city, so following performers in general, DJs, because and we'll talk a little bit about, I want to talk to you a little bit about the performance, because you're not just standing behind a little DJ booth. You're not just, doing, you put effort. And I think that I want to really talk about that and kind of give you, you don't need my kudos, okay, you know what I mean? But again, I said,
I'll take it.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
all right, okay. So the DJ aspect, okay, so you're in the clubs, and I'm sure a lot of it is very electrifying, and just the vibe, the energy, and all these things. How then did you go from the, you mentioned turntables into more digital, but okay, let's back. How did you got your birthday present of your turntables? Then how did you, is it like the, Straight Outta Compton movie where, you're kind of like, the white version of Dr. Dre and you're in some dude's house and...
No, this was my college dorm room and my college desk that they provide for you that just had 2 turntables and a mixer on it. And, there was great record stores, Beat Street in Brooklyn, Rock and Soul on 7th Avenue that, like, I knew of. And you could pick up, singles, so it wasn't too expensive, like $4 or $5 or something, and you get 2 and you try to, juggle them back and forth, like getting the technical aspect of it, and then, you're out all the time, so you're picking up, and then, they do a little homework for you. They're like, this is the top 20 right now or whatever, so you kind of
It helps.
pick things here and there and just keep like observing and studying music, and you can get a little set going, like just knowing a little bit about music, and you can pick up those records, and before you know it, you have like an hour of music, and then you get more creative with it, and then, expand genres. And so I started kind of practicing there. And I guess like if you're asking like how I got my first opportunity, it was random, and it was people that, I had been following, and so they knew me just more as like, one of the people that dances, comes with like the crew of dancers, and we'd be on stage sometimes and sometimes not, just for fun. It was like very casual. It was nothing like performative. It was just you're dancing and having a good time. And I remember this still vinyl days. This is Joe's Pub in Astor Place in downtown New York. The DJ, they do live shows and concerts, and like it's a smaller theater. The DJ had stepped off backstage, like behind the curtain in the hall that's like not facing the main room where everybody's dancing. And so he just kind of like left the couple dancers there. And I know what's going on at this point. Like I know the record's running out. I mean, I also know the song's running out, and he's like nowhere to be seen. So it's a single. So like it's going to run out, and then it's going to be silent.
Here's my chance.
Well, I mean, I just felt like a duty to the crowd because it was a full room. There's things going on, and I was like right there.
So you just jumped back there and started?
Well, he had the other record queued up, so it was a matter, and it was already playing. I don't want to get technical. Yeah. You should have rewound a needle to the front of it, match the beats. Like you should have done a lot of things, but at that point, what I could do was move the fader from the right side to the left side when I knew this song was running out, and that song was already playing and the volume was up. It wasn't a smooth transition, but we landed on the next song, so
yeah.
I was like, whoa, that was kind of cool. I mean, I know it didn't sound great. Thank you.
So did you stay up there on stage and
it was a matter of like one song, and he was like, thanks, and then like took over. But like if I felt like the record was going to be silent, so I felt like I needed to save the day.
Okay, so you don't have to answer questions that incriminate either yourself or this DJ. So do you think he was either doing a deal or on which side, receiving?
No, he was screaming at his girlfriend.
Oh.
On the phone in like a very intense conversation, and I peeked because I was like gonna say something, but it was intense, so then I just held my ground and decided to, take charge of the little thing I could control there.
You did not let the beat drop.
Well, yeah, it didn't drop right, but,
So what was your very first, like, your gig?
So,
your first DJ?
Yeah, I mean, I think just the way things go, like, there weren't too many female DJs at the time. I had a solid group of friends at school, and, there's so many venues and so many places that are looking for, like,
something
DJs 4 or 5 days a night. There's just like not enough, and female DJs like definitely not enough. So you meet people, and I start talking to people, and they're like, oh yeah, she DJs. Like, your friends will talk you up a lot before you're quite ready.
Hey, do you know anybody who DJs? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's there was a place that I started that was a block away from the school, and I had my girlfriends help me carry the crates of records there. It wasn't too far in heels, so big shout out to friends that are supportive. And yeah, I mean, being, I guess, like a rigidly classically trained musician that's taking a little chill pill, I still like rehearsed, like I could do that set. Like I might not be able to do everything, and but I could do like a solid set, and I knew what I was doing. Like I could rehearse that like hour well, and like have smooth transitions, have it kind of planned out in my head, and like it was more intimidating just like playing on someone else's system and like all of that stuff, because I've only touched my 2 turntables and my 1 mixer at that point, so that part was more intimidating, the tech aspect of it, just because I was like, I haven't learned anything, and this seems like before internet access, easy,
Yeah,
you know,
right,
like
yeah.
look something up. Like you really had to
Learn. You had to figure it out.
figure it out with like a sound person or somebody that DJ'd before. But yeah, so first gig was close by the school and kind of took off from there, and really, you know, double-edged sword being a female, whether people took you seriously or not, you still stood out, so you could get access to some nice venues, new people, and people were interested, and that kind of helped me grow. Yeah.
And when did you because you weren't playing the electric violin at this point. You're just
Not
doing
at
the
all.
DJ.
No, we broke up.
We broke up.
I didn't want to
Right.
talk. I didn't want to think about it.
Now, were you
like,
playing the
nothing.
electric violin before, or was it more of the
No,
classical?
It was like
right.
a wood classical.
Yeah. So then,
like,
when did that
good
start?
posture, all of that. Honestly, really through COVID. So I did a good decade and some of
wow.
just DJing. It picked up quickly. I traveled a lot. I got to play in Europe, Asia, Caribbean, and New York City was such a hub. And being a female DJ from New York, as like, I don't know, cliche as it sounds, it could get you a lot in Europe
absolutely.
or Asia, because like that's like a thing.
Saudi.
You know, it would be like in the title, like
Right.
New York City female DJ, wherever, in like the Philippines, and they're like impressed already, you know? So I'd be like, all right, let's go with it. And this is like MySpace days, you know?
yeah.
So the way you're connecting with people is also like really sketchy now that you look back at it. And you're like, yeah, sure, I'll be there in Korea. Like, someone will pick me up at the airport. Like, great, okay.
What is a scam? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but you're young and naive, and you don't have like a family tying you down and opportunities. And I was making way more money and having more fun doing this than
Right.
Yeah.
you know, anything. I was, you know, towards the end of college that I'm talking about, and this was kind of my work. Like, I had an internship here and there, but like this was my predominant way of making money and supporting myself. So it took a lot of big swings and opportunities, and most of them panned out, I would say.
So yeah, so that's I grew up in New Jersey, so yeah, those that are. I would ask you is do you think you say that New York is like no other place, right? It's such an interesting.
For sure.
The mecca of a lot of things, if you want to call it, you know, whether it's culture or finance or the
Yeah.
many things. You know, everyone who thinks of America as, you know, New York is all that stuff, and the clubs and just, see the punk scene. Did you ever make it to CBGBs?
Yeah. I didn't play there, but yeah, I knew of it, and
And you lived, you know.
lived in different places. And
No, I mean you lived, right? Obviously you
Yeah.
lived, right? You made it out alive at CBG.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think like my era was like oh my gosh, the church. You know, the do you remember like the church that they redid and then it became a club on like 1st Street and 6th Avenue. It'll come to me.
Okay.
But it was basically like a beautiful church, and then it became like the scene for like club kids and all of that. So that was like one of my first exposures where I was like, whoa, this building has like a lot in it that's happened, you know. So there was like a few of those like iconic venues that you kind of like get to, and you're like, wow, this is like where like club kids hung out, and you know, you could feel the history of places, and to experience it for whatever limited time you could, like, was a lot for me. I don't know, I'm very weird with like places, you know, like you feel like
there's we talk about this is there's an energy,
right,
you know,
right,
from the location, the place. You know, Kevin and I early last year. We went up to Memphis and we went to Sun Studios. So are you familiar with Sun Studios?
Not so much, no.
Okay.
Tell me.
So Sun Studios is where Elvis recorded his first song. And this is the whole story how Elvis almost blew it. Elvis almost didn't become what it was. But, you know, we went in there, did a tour, checked it. You're in the recording, the studio there in the room.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, yeah, here's where Elvis stood and recorded this. And you're like, there's so much energy and a thing in this room that it's hard to explain. Because again, there's the history, and then you feel something as well. So, here's Johnny Cash performed, and all these guys that are in the 50s, and it's what's his name, Jerry Lee Lewis. There's a photo of there's four guys: Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny Cash, and Carl Perkins. They call it like the $1 Million Quartet.
Okay,
it's a black and white, but yeah. So there was like this vibe, and especially for Kevin, he's obviously more of a performer and music than I am. And he's like, and there till today, it's still an active recording studio.
Yeah.
So you can go in there and record, and it didn't seem like it was all that expensive to go and book an hour of time and like, hey, I record. It's like almost like going to Abbey Roads, right? I recorded at the famous Abbey Roads, where the Beatles did all that stuff, So, but yeah, definitely, I understand that. Yeah,
and in this country, there's few cities that have like deep history, So New York is definitely one of them. Like, and you can nitpick to architecture or whatever it may be, but like even like the trees and things, like there's like some areas where you're like, wow, like a lot of stuff happened here.
Right.
I love looking at like old pictures, like black and whites of areas, and you're like, wow, like that was there. Like that one looked like that. The Flatiron Building was there for this long.
It's amazing. I mean,
it's lovely
everything went downhill after that big monkey up on the Empire State Building.
Oh God.
So going through there. So in being in the city again, just being in the city and the energy, the vibe, and those things is. So I guess some of the DJs that you were influenced by, or I guess would I know who they are, or are they very underground kind of aspect, or
it's so many, and because I didn't really have like that historical context, I could relate to a DJ that's up and coming versus a old school DJ, that's been around and was like dominant in hip hop, like meeting, I don't know, Marley Marl and some of these guys that were already a bit older than I was, but they were like at the precipice of hip hop, and like right there, like in the Bronx, like, everything was like coming out. Just, I just missed it kind of, but then I still got to benefit from like seeing those people in the scene, and learning from them. But I was inspired by so many different ones. So ones ones you wouldn't know, and people come and go, and unfortunately people forget, or people are there for just a little bit of time. So it was really a lot, and there were some Beverly Bond was one of the first female DJs that I like looked up to, but I'm not sure if, unless you're in the New York scene, if you know them or not, or if you're following stuff. But definitely like female DJs were a new thing, at least like to me. So it was fun to be that, but also like a little tricky at times, because you don't know, like, are people taking you seriously? So you have to be as good as the guys,
right? And
then also be a female, and then work that.
Can I ask you how you feel about Paris Hilton and her DJ stuff?
So I mean, not that I've spoken a word to her, but we have worked events together.
Oh wow, okay.
Where like she was the DJ, but I was the DJ. So like, or me and like other people, like we had done events, and then she would do like a guest set. But I mean, from what I can tell, she's actually DJing, and like she's learned and she's done her work. There's others that are much worse. Like there's been no names named supermodels that were guest DJing that were like 3 feet taller than me and standing behind me with both of their hands up DJing while I was
look, Ma, no hands
DJing.
Oh snap.
So I was like, all right, whatever. Like I got a picture out
you
of
said
it.
3 feet taller than you, so
So no one can really even see
me. So okay, I'm trying to think here. So you said a model, so it definitely threw me off because at 3 feet, I was thinking of somebody who does DJ also. But I think it would have been a dead giveaway if you were standing behind Shaq and DJing for Shaq, right? 'Cause that'd be a little awkward, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm exaggerating 3 feet, but yeah, you know what I mean. Like there was
right.
people that were. Yeah, it's okay. Honestly,
You were the stunt DJ.
Yeah, basically, I did all the arm work, and then
That's
then you
funny.
got to get all
I
the
love
glory.
Paris Hilton. I think I like her stuff. I like watching her perform. I think she knows how to work a crowd.
She knows herself, and people love her, and no shade, So I think like there's a lot of people that are much worse, like that don't do anything. I really think she knows what she's doing, and she deserves whatever comes her way, and more props to her.
DJ Pauly from the Shore.
I don't know him personally.
Okay.
I didn't make it out to Jersey. But I still think, like, all those DJs, most of them are, like, trained and they can hold down a night. And then it comes to a point where, like, you do this a lot. Like, if you want to play a little mix for 15 minutes and, like, stand up there and hype up the crowd, like, you deserve it. Like, you've done your homework. Like Tiesto, like people, like, no, you know what? Like he's put in his hours. Like people, like need to back off.
Right.
Like there's different nights, there's different things going on. Like sometimes there's a technical thing. Like chill out. Like we don't need policing of DJs. Like just let them do their thing. Are you having a good time? No, leave. Like go do something else. Like these people have done their homework.
So have you been to any of the events that are down in Miami in the Woodwood area during, like, I think it's March time frame, usually when it's spring break?
Art Basel and like all the ultra things.
Right, yeah, like Toe Jam's Backlot. Familiar?
Okay.
Yeah. So.
I mean, I do a handful of events in Miami, but I've never been into like the huge ultra music festival scene.
Right.
Done a couple like MTV events, but there's so many, and they're at hotels and they're smaller, more intimate. So I think like as a DJ, I never like found my footing like to be like a showman.
Right.
So I was more about like knowing the music, being like smooth with transitions, like having something creative to share, but I wasn't there to like, I don't know, like stand up on stage and like do a lot of dancing and things. Like it just wasn't me, or maybe I just like didn't get there yet.
But you were
the comfort level.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's interesting is that you were very focused on what the main reason was. There is okay, you can hype up a crowd, but I guess if the music, the one has to feed the other.
Yeah.
Right? So if you don't have good music going on, or you're not doing, then you can hype all you want, and probably.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just my personality. I'm not like a huge extrovert, so I think like I can speak more with my hands. Like I don't need the mic. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Like you guys will understand like where we're going, and if the crowd is receptive, I try to be more intuitive. Like of like, okay, like what did they like? No, like see how the room goes, like how it reads, like find like a wallflower and be like, okay, like what can I do to like make that person happy, and like. I'd rather do that and have like a fun evening where you like bring people together and you have a good time than a huge crazy festival where you go home and your ears are ringing and you can't sleep, and drug scene and all of that stuff is not for me.
That's a bizarre thing, and I don't know if I've told you this, Elly, is I've seen Dead Mouse perform in Miami at one of those backlot clubs areas, and again it was like, I'm obviously this ain't my age thing, and it was I went down for one of the brands I had met, and Dead Mouse is their brand ambassador for this product, and they were performing. So I'm there that night. It was quiet, and again, nobody goes out until a certain time, and all of a sudden everyone's here and showing up. And what was cool, at least, was I did have some VIP, so I can get behind the DJ, the whole little area there. And I said to the guy I was with, I'm like, what's with? Like, drinking water, and I was like, and again, I don't know the drug scene, 'cause everyone was all on Molly or whatever, and I was like, oh, Okay, I guess
Yeah,
I feel like a boomer here in this crowd, you know?
I'm probably naive too, and
Yeah.
was around a lot of things I didn't
Right.
really understand. But I no judgment. Like people can do whatever they want if they're not harming anyone but themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So glad you're having a great time.
Yeah,
Like
right.
I,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it just didn't
Just not my
partake in
right.
it that much. Drinks fine, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of people that get like caught up in the
Yeah.
scene. So I think for me, music was always the first love and passion. So that was enough for me a lot of the times. So like I'd still do it if money wasn't there. So and it wasn't there for many times.
So, what's your thoughts about a lot of the we'll talk a little bit later about how a lot of the digital transition, and then now some of it is transitioning back to a little bit of vinyl, right?
Yeah.
But what's your thoughts? Have you seen on social media these accounts or people that do a lot of these new mashups now, using some AI aspect of taking a song? What did I watch the other day? It was a Van Halen song mashed up with Stevie Wonder,
Okay.
and it was like it kind of goes back to what you said is if the music is lining up at the right time, the right speed, tempo,
Right.
etc. It's a kind of an amazing thing, and it's very similar. It's exactly the same in this aspect. Is Stevie Wonder singing this song, "Baby It's All Right," and I don't remember the name, but I think you probably. And then you've got Van Halen performing the song, and it's like, all right, how did you take an R&B song and a rock song, but oddly enough, some of these mashups are just like insane.
Yeah. I think, this has been around for a really long time, and essentially that's what we were doing with records and singles. Like, you take the record has an instrumental, an a cappella, a radio track, maybe an explicit track, depending on the song. So maybe 2 to a side or 4 to a side. So you could always take the instrumental. It's measured by beats per minute, so there's a number there. So it's just math, and you can speed this up, slow this down. You can almost always, within 10 beats per minute, realistically match 2 songs. So this has been around for a long time, and as DJs, like when you're doing it live, that was definitely something you did to show off. So it's been there. It's just like now it's probably much easier to do, and like people can record it easier. But that's kind of what DJs were doing when I was coming up, and you'd always have like your favorite ones, but not to get like too down and technical, but there's also like a key to songs too. So like as a musician, you'd get quite irritated when the keys were like just off. Like the instrumentals are in one key, but yet the vocals are in a different key, and I'm like, does no one else like hear how bad this is? Like I understand that the rhythms line up, but like it's like 2 completely different colors, like just that are not meant to be together.
I know Kevin's probably dying watching this episode now and to have the conversation because again, he is a stickler about sound.
Yeah.
He does a lot of sound, for performances and other shows if he's not playing, but there's a
Right.
lot of that. And I always joke with him about I said, I don't have to worry about capos and key changes and whatever because the drums are just the drums,
Right.
ain't all this other stuff or playing a step down or
Even they can be like more high pitched or bassy. Like you understand that it can have a completely different
for sure.
vibe that it adds.
So, Lexey, so we've got a little segment that we talk about. It's called we call it Tales from the Road. So it's a segment where we ask the guests what is some of the craziest stuff may have happened at a gig or something on if you're ever touring or traveling, music related, or any good stories about people falling off a stage or I don't know.
There's so many. I'm not sure which ones to share would be more interesting. Like personal fails or like
It doesn't have to be about you. You can say it's something else that somebody else you saw happen, or like, hey, I was at this club or I was DJing at this club and something else happened.
yeah. Let me think.
Okay, we'll come back.
I wanna have a juicy story.
Well, how about this? Save
Yeah.
that juicy story for. Can you come back next week? We're running out of time, so
Yeah.
can you come back next
do
week?
that.
Yeah, let's do that, and then
It came to me. Avalon was the church. That was the name.
okay,
Oh,
there we
okay,
go.
very good. There we go.
It
So-
comes to me, but it may take a new episode.
See, folks, this is why you stay through a whole episode to hear the answer at the end.
There you go. It was a trick question.
There you go. So yeah, let's see here. We are. So, do you have any gigs or any performances, or I mean, most of your events are you're playing. You know, you mentioned you get some, and we'll talk a little bit in the next episode. Is next week is, you do some private events and charity events and so forth. But where could folks normally kind of maybe find where you normally play? You know.
Yeah. I do keep up with Instagram. It's the only one that I can handle. So it's at DJ Lexey, and then I have 2 that I run. I have one more for violin, so _violin DJ. You'll find it if you just put DJ Lexey and Lexey. And so I post things up there. There's a lot of events, but Facebook, all the socials I'm on, but they're pretty much fed through Instagram. That's the one that I'll update at stories and actually have like something a little more personal, and less strict like pictures but I put up videos and thoughts, all kinds of things.
Very cool. So, so we're going to come back next week. We're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to talk about obviously the other half now. The story here is obviously we talked a lot about. We started with the violin. Now we went to DJing, and we're going to come back to the violin here, or matching up the two actually. So we're going to stay in tune next week, an episode there. But before we go ahead and wrap up this episode here, definitely want you to go ahead and check out here. We got a blues festival because we are now the podcast is now part of the podcast partners, official podcast partners of the Treasure Coast Blues Society. So this is an event coming here April 6th at Filthy's Fine Cocktails. So I know the name of the place kind of throws you off, but apparently I've been told it's not actually filthy. It's just the name.
It's fine.
Yeah, fine, yes. Okay. And Fine Cocktails, right. And it's up in Vero Beach. So, again, this is part of the Treasure Coast Blues Society. There's all local musicians here, part of that are performing. Kevin's one of the bands, obviously, that have been performing as well. A lot of great guys there. Hank and Hurricane, Dave Schott and the Reckless Shots. So definitely come check it out. Support it. $5 in advance, $10 at the door. Any proceeds, I believe, goes to a charity. It's like a music-related charity. So, again, get out there. This is the one thing Kevin talks a lot about is the blues are the one sole American-style music. Again, that was born here in this country. But, yeah, so come on out. Keep the blues alive is the tagline there for the Blues Society, blues.org. So come and check out this event here. Again, we want to promote this event here is obviously being podcast partners of the show here too. So, Elly, what you got coming up here? See you on Jams and Cocktails?
Yeah. What we're doing this week is our Mardi Gras episode. So we'll be celebrating Mardi Gras.
So, yep. So we'll check it out. So you may see me show up. I don't know. I may show up on in the Jams and Cocktails show from time to time. We do a lot of crossovers there. That's obviously the whole thing is to intertwine and thread these things together. But yeah, so definitely check out the podcast, support the show there. We got a Patreon page. Go ahead and listen to us on the B3 Podcast Network. Check out the audio channel, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave us a rating here. I don't know if the ratings thing is working on Apple Podcasts, so can you drop me a rating or comment on B3 Podcast Network? Tell us anything you want. I don't care. I think it might be broken or maybe... I don't know. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but yeah, check that out there. So we're gonna learn a lot more here next week. So tune in next week here. We're gonna talk to DJ Lexey a lot more here about more music, performing, violin. I see there's a violin case over there, so maybe she'll bring it back next week with her. But yeah, so definitely tune in, check out here, and she's gonna also share her juicy tales from the road, and also we're gonna do a song review next week. So tune in. This is Paul, and this is the
Riffs.
And this is the Rhythms, and this is
Elly.
There you go. we got through it. All right. So cheers. We'll see you all guys next week.